Brazil has the largest Black population outside of Africa. Over half identify as Black or mixed race. 80% of the residents of African descent live in Salvador. Today, I want to talk to you about Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. Let's get into it. This is the last destination in my UNESCO Heritage series celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. I wanted to highlight the UNESCO sites around Latin America and share the ones that I visited with you. Well, why are these UNESCO sites important? These sites can bring economic benefits to the community. When I travel, I do like to focus on Afrotourism. This was my second destination in South America. I've already been to Colombia. When I went there, I searched out Palenque. I knew that I had to visit Africa and Colombia. And of course, I did the same in Brazil. That's why I went to Salvador. Even if you are supporting Afrotourism across the globe, remember that this is not entertainment. Okay, we are visiting these people's lives. This is their community, and we want to hear their stories, not the colonized version of it. They are not on display. I want to quickly talk about the colonization of Brazil. Salvador is located in the state of Bahia. It used to be the capital of Brazil. On Google, it says who took the largest amount of Africans from the motherland and forced them into slavery. And it is going to be the British. But do you know who did it first? It was the Portuguese in the 1500s. The Portuguese took the African people away from their families, their tribes, most from the Central African region, all the way across the Atlantic. That's why it's called transatlantic slave trade. They stripped them of their African names. That's why they have Portuguese names. They had to learn Portuguese. I don't even know if these topics are taught in the Brazilian schools. You are going to be able to find Afro-Brazilian communities in the other cities as well. Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo. When I went to Brazil, those are the places that I was able to visit. First, I flew into Sao Paulo, then I flew to Salvador, and then lastly, I was in Rio. If you've been watching my series, you noticed that I covered Cuba, Mexico, Puerto Rico, and now Brazil. You might be wondering, hold up, how are you talking about Brazil for Hispanic Heritage Month? That is a good question. Hispanic is not a race. Let me say it again. Hispanic is not a race. When it comes to Hispanic Heritage Month, I'm gonna just be honest, it's a colonizer term. The origin of Hispanic Heritage Month, it actually was Hispanic Heritage Week. In 1968, President LBJ ordered that there was going to be a Hispanic Heritage Week. 20 years later, it was decided to make it 30 days. All right, so that didn't happen until 1988. I do like to think of my culture as an African American. It was similar. In 1926, we had Negro History Week, and it took 50 years, y'all, for it to become Black History Month. Right now, we have the shortest month of the year honoring our heritage, our culture. Latinos, you guys get September 15 to October 15. The US decided to group all of those countries together and then just say, hey, let's celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's give them a month. Y'all get a month. We're going to give the LGBTQs a month in June. I'm not even going to forget about the AIPIs. All of this is fascinating to me. Hispanic are the nations, of course, that speak Spanish and the historical connection to Spain. España. Brazil is located in South America. That is why it is not considered Hispanic. What do they speak? Portuguese. Latin America refers to the countries that have the Romance speaking languages. French, Italian, Romanian, Portuguese that were derived from Latin and they were colonized. Brazilians are considered to be Latino. Some Latinos don't consider themselves Hispanic. Some Brazilians might not consider themselves to be Latino or Latina. This is all a very interesting topic. When it comes to Latin American heritage, it's more about the geography, Central America, South America, Mexico is part of Latin America, and it also includes the Spanish-speaking Caribbean islands, even Brazil and Haiti. Okay, because you know their main language is not Spanish. There are white Brazilians, there are Afro Brazilians, there are white Cubans, white Puerto Ricans, white Mexicans, and there are Afro for all of those countries that I previously mentioned as well. So, does Brazil fall into this month that I am sharing with you? It's going to, because that's what I have scheduled. Unfortunately, the Afro populations of the Latino communities aren't recognized as much. Even if you go on YouTube and look up documentaries about Brazil, even Salvador, they aren't really interviewing the Afro Brazilians. And I find that to be so odd. We need to hear more of the Afro Brazilians, the Afro Bahians, and their stories. I'm going to give you a itinerary for you to follow. You can look up the Afro Heritage Tours yourself. You want to make sure that you are getting a local, make sure you're supporting the Afro Bahian people. What ends up happening if you're going to take a guide, or if you're going to take a tour that comes from Get Your Guide, Viator, it could be a colonized tour guide who is only giving you certain facts about Salvador. Their focus is going to be on the colonial buildings, how beautiful they are, okay? They might touch a little bit on the history of slavery, but I really think that you should look into the tour guides who have the vast knowledge. My African Heritage Tour was with Sayuri. I really recommend her as a guide. I was able to hop on one at the last minute. It was a Portuguese tour, so I still was able to, be in Pelourinho. I saw all of the sites and everything. I just researched it later. It has been said that Salvador can be compared to New Orleans. Just imagine it with beaches. I like to say that Salvador is its own place. It's known around the world as the blackest city outside of the motherland. So I'm going to just keep it as that. But if you've never been to Brazil, think of it like New Orleans. If you like New Orleans and had a great experience there, add beaches. These are the best beaches I've seen in my life. I know I say that a lot of places, but I am energized by the sun. I love the water. So if your country has a beach, I'm going to be down. And seeing all these beautiful black people while we're just chilling at the beach, it is absolutely amazing. Let's get into this itinerary. You're going to start out your morning with breakfast. You can try to get a Brazilian coffee. Then you're going to go to Pelourinho. This is the historic city center. And it was inscribed as a UNESCO Heritage Site in 1985. They will probably take you to see the Baroque church, Igreja de San Francisco. Please excuse my pronunciation. I do not speak Portuguese. There is the Afro-Brazilian Museum. This is definitely going to be a highlight of your tour, where you're going to be able to learn more about the African heritage that was brought to Brazil. Okay, you're going to learn more about their religion, the music, the cuisine. After that, you could eat a light snack. It is going to be time for lunch. As a vegetarian, I did not eat that much in Pelourinho, you guys. Typical Afro-Brazilian food is going to be carne, moqueca, vatapa. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm butchering these names. I did eat a lot of vegetarian feijoada, the black bean stew. I had that often in Sao Paulo and Rio, and it was delightful. But again, in Pelourinho, I didn't eat that much. It was a lot of seafood, a lot of prawns, a lot of shrimp, and I don't get down with that. I don't eat that. If you are non-veg, you definitely want to try out these African dishes. There's going to be some indigenous, some Portuguese flavors as well. Then you're going to want to go to the Lacerda elevator. It's in my thumbnail. It connects the upper city to the lower city, the old and the new areas. From here, you're going to be able to look at the All Saints Bay. When, I was putting this thumbnail together, I was reflective of how they were bringing all of these Africans across All Saints Bay to a new life in Brazil. Them not knowing what they were coming here for, forced into slavery. Of course, many of them did not survive the journey. And by the time they reached Brazil, chained, given new names. It's maddening, to be honest. Black Americans, we are not the only ones who have suffered from slavery. Next up is the Mercado Modelo. This is going to be a market where you can do your shopping. You want to get some souvenirs. There is local artwork, there's crafts, and it's a live, bustling place. There is a short boat ride that you can take where you're going to be able to get panoramic views. This is the Forte de São Marcelo, the Fort Barra Lighthouse, Faro de Barra. This was the entry point for the Africans once they had reached the new land, Brazil, to the Portuguese colony. When you were going through all of that stress, that trauma, coming from the rich resources of Central Africa and forced into slavery, they had to dig deep. And this is where African spirituality, the Orishas, come into play. Learn more about this with the Tororo Dike. The Cidade Baix is the lower city where you can learn more about the African presence in Bahia, Brazil. I mentioned the Afro Benin Museum. That is going to be in the historic downtown. There is the Church of Rosary of the Blacks, and that's what I wrote down, y'all. It's the first Black Christian brotherhood. Other highlights that you want to experience with the Afro-Bahian culture, you have the Carnival Museum here. There is the martial arts dance form, capoeira. Y'all help me out. You could get tribal paintings, do your shopping. The Pelourinho town is bright and colorful. I took pictures with the ladies here. Make sure that you tip them well. With the previous UNESCO heritage sites, you want to wear comfortable walking shoes because there's going to be cobblestone. I say cobblestone in each of these videos. No heels here, ladies. You are to decide how to end your evening. Okay, I went back to Rio Vermelho near where I was staying because I was hungry. It was told to me that you don't want to be around Pelourinho at night due to bandits or gang activity. I stayed in Rio Vermelho, and I think that was a pretty safe, nice area. I did go out. I was wilding out, y'all. We were just riding around town on his motorcycle in the wild. I was in the wild in Brazil. It was a great all-day tour. Shout out again to Sayuri for organizing it. It was a small group of us during the Panini, and we were able to learn about the Afro-Brazilian culture. If you sign up for an African heritage tour, make sure that it is by a local, preferably Afro-Bahian person. Shout out to Sayuri. She's going to get you right. I am not sure if she is still running group tours. She can definitely arrange a private one for you as well. I'm going to leave her information down below. I also want to give special thanks to the Black Expats in Brazil group. Rest in peace to Yusuf Watif. I was able to connect with him while I was doing my research to go to Brazil, and he gave me a wealth of information. Also thanking Renee, Ada, and Phil. They really helped me, my people who were living down in Brazil, and really calmed my anxiety. I kind of had a little panic attack when I first arrived in Brazil, and they were like, girl, you lived in Baltimore, you're going to be good to go. And even down to vegan and vegetarian eats, like they really had me covered. So I am very grateful for that group. Always look up Facebook expat groups. You want to get people who are on site who can help you. I went for my birthday in Bahia, Brazil, you feel me? And this was during the Rona. So it was not as crowded. I think for me, it led to a much better experience. As far as safety, I had no concerns. Brazil is one of my top 5 countries of all of the places that I visited. It was absolutely beautiful. If I were to return, I am sure that I would have to take some precautions, but I also have some thoughts about why do we always think of major Black cities as dangerous, that we have to hold our items tight and close to us, that something's going to go down, there's going to be more robberies. Nothing happened to me. Hispanic heritage was coined by the U.S. to celebrate the contributions and the culture of all of the Spanish-speaking people. But I am here to tell you that I'm not trying to offend anyone. You guys can educate me on the correct terms. In the comments, let me know if you think it should be called Hispanic heritage, Latin heritage. What are your thoughts about this? I am hoping in the future that more of the American travelers will support Afrotourism. We do want to honor the history, the heritage of Brazil, but also we're not glorifying their colonial past. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you leave a comment. And if you want to support the channel and you're still watching, that's awesome. Watching to the end always helps. Go ahead and click here for more information about Black travel. I have a whole playlist of destinations where you are going to be good to go, or you can support in solidarity. Thanks again for watching, and I'm going to see you soon.